He said, Ndaba, you are my grandson. Therefore, people will look at you as a leader. Therefore, you must get the best marks in class. And I was like, whoa, 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 pressure, pressure. But you know what? When I look at back retrospectively, pressure is what makes diamonds. When I look at how we are progressing as Africans, how can I not be optimistic? When I see young kids like Kelvin Doe living on a dumpster who's now been able to create his own radio and fix people's TVs without being taught nothing, teaching himself, ending up teaching at MIT. He's now an inventor. How can I not be optimistic when people in Africa can take nothing and create something? How can I not be optimistic when we have the youngest population in the world? Hungry to make things happen, hungry to develop, hungry to break the cycle of poverty that exists. Africa Rising was founded in 2009. We registered in 2010 because we realized that people outside the continent of Africa have very little knowledge on Africa. And the little information was what was perpetuated by mainstream media, that Africa is a place of war, poverty, disease, and dictators. And the only positive thing really being safari. So we made a decision that we need to do something and have some sort of organization that talks to the good stories of Africa. We want to change and break down the misconception that exists in Africa so that people can understand that this is a place where you can bring your family for holiday, this is a place that you can invest in. Out of the top 10 growing economies in the world, 6 of those are coming from the continent of Africa. People are getting infected by HIV/AIDS. People are still dying from HIV/AIDS, and there's no need for them to be dying from HIV/AIDS. There is medicine that is out there that will allow you to live your full life expectancy. There's a kit that we are trying to make sure that people are able to have access to this kit, right? Where you can actually test yourself and you know your results in 20 minutes. Now that will make sure that we stop the spread of HIV/AIDS. And once we're able to stop the spread of HIV/AIDS, we'll be able to stop deaths related to HIV/AIDS. Therefore, essentially, you are going to be ending and creating an HIV-free generation. Because HIV has devastated our nation, devastated the whole generation, and created child-headed households. Can you imagine a 13-year-old looking after a 9-year-old, looking after the 5-year-old? What kind of job is that person going to get? These are things that perpetuate the social ills that continue happening in our society, right? So we need to be able to talk to young people so that we can protect their dreams and encourage them to dream so that they can have a hope for creating a better future for themselves and their community. Well, the first time I met my grandfather, I was about 7, 8 years old, just before he came out of prison. As a 7, 8-year-old, I had a typical image of what jail was like. Concrete bars, security, dogs, you know, the usual, what you see on TV. But when I got there, it was nothing like what I had imagined. It was a house more beautiful than the house I lived in. There was a swimming pool. I never had a swimming pool. I met a chef for the very first time. We had awesome food. We even watched a never-ending story, right? And that's when I had an idea of what I want to do when I grow up. I said, when I grow up, I want to go to jail. After seeing him, went back to our normal lives, living in the ghetto in Soweto. And 1993, after school, at home, outside, playing marbles with my friends, and then pulls up a black BMW 7 Series. We're like, hey, what's happening here? Out jumps a guy wearing a suit, comes directly to me, says, are you Ndaba? I say, yes. He says, I've been sent by grandfather to come and fetch you. Let's go. I said, no. Back of my mind, I'm thinking, stranger danger, right? Do you have any idea who your grandfather is? Do you want me to get fired? I said, sir, I'm sorry, but I'm not going with you. Eventually, the man gave up and he left. And later that evening, when my father came home, I told him what had transpired. And he said, Ndaba, if the man comes again, you should go with him. Lo and behold, the man came back later that week. And so off I went with him to the leafy white suburbs of northern Johannesburg. Opened the electric gate, security, go into the house, there's staff, there's people cooking, cleaning. I mean, it's so many staff. I've never seen this in my life. That was the day my grandfather sat me down. He said, Ndaba, I am sending your parents to university, and I don't want them to worry about you. I want them to focus on their studies. So while they're at university, I'm going to take you in. you're going to live with me. That's when I was 11 years old. You know, my grandfather was able to influence me in many ways that he wasn't able to influence my younger brothers, because I was at that 11, 12-year-old age where you're still now forming your own identity, your own character. This one is too old, this one is too young, right? And just the way he treated me, you know, with a lot of discipline, really cared about my school. And so Madiba was actually able to transfer many of his values onto myself, and they became my own. There's something very specific, something very special about Nelson Mandela, is that Nelson Mandela could connect to any living being, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, no matter what background you come from. You could connect to the human heart. In prison, in Robben Island, there was a rule that no warden could guard Nelson Mandela for more than 3 months at a time. Because the wardens, a lot of them were young people, didn't get formal education. And so they would receive letters from their loved ones, but they didn't really have the education to fully understand what was on the letter. Nelson Mandela taught himself how to read and write and became fluent in Afrikaans. And so he would take the letters and translate it for the warden. And you can imagine the warden would be so touched that now they are smuggling extra couple of slices of bread for Nelson Mandela, extra couple of blankets for Nelson Mandela. And of course, when the authorities would find this, oh, this is impossible, this is preposterous, you know, remove that warden. But what would happen is that when the next warden would come, the very same thing would happen. Nelson Mandela would connect with the humanity in that person. You understand what I'm saying? Hence, they had to have this rule on the island. Nelson Mandela taught me that regardless of your status, your history, your gender, or your age, we all have the potential to achieve greatness.